Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of season two of Coffee with Ashish. And today we've got a very special guest with us, Isha Goyal, who's the Executive Director and CEO of Strict Travel Group. And before we get into conversation with her, Isha, we've been fortunate enough on this session and over the course of last 50 or so episodes we've had to be able to interact with a lot of first generation, second generation, and even third generation entrepreneurs. We've talked to companies overseas which have got a legacy of 100 years or so across four generations. The travel company we had once, I remember, and many such inspiring journeys. But I think when we talk about the Indian market and the ecosystem, there are very few family-owned businesses in the travel and tourism ecosystem that have really stood the test of time over 4 or 5 decades. And I think Stick Travel Group is an amazing story which inspires all of us in terms of how the second generation can actually carry forward and magnify the value which is being generated by the first generation. So I think it's an amazing story, and we're so lucky to have you. And just for everybody's reference, Stick Travel Group, as many of us so fondly know about, was started in 1973 under the patronage of Shri Subhash Goyal ji, who is literally considered as a proverbial father and the doyen of the travel industry in India. And we also seek mentorship and blessings from him always. Stick Travel Group is one of the largest TSA and travel sales representation businesses in India, and they are across different product portfolios like airline, cruises, air, car rental brands, as well as cruises and air charter company as well. And they represent some of the world's largest travel, aviation, tourism, cruise, and hotel brands in India. And they've got 6 or 7 core divisions. One is the airline sales, the second is cruise, third is hotel and resorts, then destination sales and marketing. They also have a very interesting division in which I have spent a little bit time with their the CEO of that division, the student and youth travel division. So they represent international student identity cards in India, which I remember even as a student when I was in IIT, I used to use that card, and it helped me get all the fancy discounts around the world. So, and they also have cargo division, and the list goes on and on. The group has been recognized by government institutions in India and private bodies in India across the world alike. They are heavily recognized by both Subhashji and now Isha carrying forward the legacy, and the group as a whole is a brand which I think everybody in travel industry really looks up to in terms of their integrity and the way they have run the business. And talking about Isha, she is a second generation business leader carrying forward the family business. She now spearheads the nationwide team of professionals who are managing this extensive portfolio of the entire ecosystem, which I told, from airline to hotel to cargo and whatnot. She is an alumnus of the prestigious Indian School of Business, and she took over the management team at Stick almost 10 years back, and now has been sort of going from the ranks and now at the helm of affairs for the company. And she's also very well versed with the aviation, corporate, and leisure segments of the industry, and she's built a strong foundation to carry forward the next 10 years of growth in Stick Travel. Apart from work, Isha also enjoys traveling, hiking, and learning about new culture through food and photography. So we are really lucky to have you with us today, Isha. And it's really nice to see a young second generation entrepreneur talking about their journey of their vision for how the post-COVID world is going to be in travel and tourism. So with this, a very warm welcome to you, Isha.
Thank
To
you,
our show.
Karthik. Thank you very much.
And now
Uh,
I'm gonna, yeah, sorry.
no, thank you. That was a very kind introduction, and I sincerely appreciate your words for the organization, and of course for Mr. Goyle, who is, as you rightly said, a mentor and a leader for all of us. So thank you. Very happy to be
My
here.
pleasure. And I'm going to request now Ashish ji to have a conversation with you over how you see the world evolving, and so as to do a little bit of crystal ball gazing in terms of how you see the travel trends going forward. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy my coffee. So over to you, Ashish.
Yeah, so Isha, how's your coffee?
Great.
Okay, so, there's so much been spoken about the second and the third generation and transition. And, leadership transitions anyway is a case of business case studies over generations, especially where family businesses are involved, and more specifically when travel businesses are involved. So how has been your own journey and the transition plan, which may have been kicked off by your father and in your mother perhaps few years ago, and by yourself mentally? How has it progressed? How have you moved to be where you are? And how has it fitted into the DNA and culture of the organization?
Okay, so that's a loaded question. I'll try and break that up into parts. I think so. Transition, I think can be planned, of course, in some ways. And in family businesses, I think when you are born, pretty much you're born into a business. So we have a joke in the family where we always say that for our parents, stick was the first child, and will always be their firstborn. So I think in terms of how would we as a family for this transition, so to speak, I think the structured personal level planning happens at various levels. It's about relevant education when you're thinking about your children growing up. So it starts relevant education in terms of exposure and in terms of experience as well. So I think for me personally, we started young. We were never told that you have to do this, that you don't have a choice, which I know that in family businesses and sometimes that's the way it works from one generation to the other. So we've been we were never insulated from the ups and downs of the business. We were never insulated from what was going on. Dinner conversation could very easily transition from what happened in the day at work and back to what's going on in the family. And I think that is a subconscious learning that happens throughout your growing years that you don't even realize. In the moment as a child, you don't understand what lessons you're learning by default. And it's only now, some things I realize even now, that perhaps I would have witnessed 20 or 30 years ago as a child growing up. And I think that is something that just happens naturally and what is unique about family businesses DNA. In terms of the business transition, I think when I joined the organization, the understanding was, well, like I said, I grew up, working across different, interning every summer, etc. But I think when I formally joined the organization, let's say after business school, even then, so I was lucky that through our growing years, I'd had, I've done paper tickets, I've done issue tickets on the counter, I've worked in reservations back before there was BSP, before there was a lot of the tech that has transformed the aviation industry today. So I had a strong foundation of the technical side of travel or aviation, and I joined to better understand some of the other more serious side in terms of finance, accounting, revenue, and how that impacts business performance. So I spent the first few years working across our different branch locations, different offices, working with different teams. And I think more credit to the people I worked with than to me. Absolutely. That has helped me transition into the role of responsibility today. We have a fantastic team of folks who have really empowered and enabled me to take charge of the organization. And a leader is only as good as their team. At the end of the day, if you can't connect with your people, if you can't understand their problems, if you can't understand their issues, then you can't lead the team. And I think it's also at some level understanding that you may not be able to problem solve every time. You may not be able to go back to them with a solution, but if you're able to respect what the challenges are and you're able to be honest about it and work with the team, that makes a difference. And I think that's been the key ingredient that has helped me take on the responsibilities that I have. And, hopefully
Talking
I'll do
about
it right.
dinner table conversation, I'm sure airline commissions and dwindling airline commission have been very much part of it over the years. But having said that, let's just deep dive into the cultural part of it. I have personally witnessed it in my own career, which is now running into 41 years, and having become a manager of a very large company at the age of 22, where I had responsibilities of leading people who were double my age, let's put it this way. So when you were put into this and suddenly you had employees who started with your dad and your mother, and you suddenly, they saw you as a boss, if I may use that word. How did the
Sure.
cultural transformation seep in? How did they accept you? Or it just happened because you were boss's daughter?
Well, I think that is so in a family business, that is both the bone and the bane of being the boss's daughter, so to speak, right? And I think that's a challenge that any next gen family business leader would face. Um, I think my approach, and it's different strokes for different folks, but my approach was always to start off assuming that I will not necessarily have all the answers, assuming that the person sitting across from me will know more than me because of not just the years of experience that they have, but the fact that they are experts in what they do. I'm a generalist at the end of the day. I am not, a CA who's done years of accounting. I am not a reservations expert. I am not, a Kida of the field, as they say, and I have to respect that. And that's the approach that's worked for me over the years. That yes, I am younger, and yes, I am privileged, and you can't hide from that. You can be embarrassed about it, and sometimes it is embarrassing. But at the end of the day, if you don't respect that privilege is also a responsibility. And so I respect the responsibility, and respect the fact that you don't know enough, and therefore you have to use the knowledge and experience of the people around you. I mean, it's like Obama always says, right? Surround yourself with people who are smarter than yourself. So, and if that's the vantage point, then mistakes tend to be fewer.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So, yeah. So, this Kida analogy is good. When virus hits us at this moment, black swan event. So, how do you see yourself in the group rebooting post-COVID? And obviously keeping the workforce motivated at the same time going forward?
So, of course, this year has been challenging for everyone. When we started this year, so every year when we do our New Year message, etc., we tend to pick a theme, talk about, what our hopes and aspirations for the coming year are as a business, as an organization, etc. And that's the message that is sent out to the entire organization. And this year, given that it was the turn of the century, turn of the decade, we picked a theme of Together Towards Tomorrow. And, little did we know how relevant that statement would hold in a year like 2020. But I think that is something that has held us in good stead these past few months. Keeping the workforce motivated, it's tough. It's tough on everyone. I think, my mantra, so to speak, has been, as far as people are concerned, the first and foremost thing is to, again, be real, be respectful, understand that, times are tough for everyone, and times may be a lot tougher for certain folks. And, understand that and keep it real. So we have, throughout the last 6 months, over town halls, over team conversations, tried to be as honest and straightforward with our people as we could. It's important to point out the silver linings. It's important to talk about what we're working towards, what the future can hold. and commit towards survival and revival, as your theme says. And that's helped us. I think we've again, and I have to give credit back to the team itself. We've had folks, who've reached out to our HR saying, I know it's a tough time, so whatever we need to do, just let us know, and we're with the organization.
Right.
And that speaks volumes for the culture as well, and that's credit to the team. But going forward, I think our motto this year continues, together towards tomorrow. We're committed to taking our people along as best as we can, and wherever we are having to part ways with folks, wherever we are seeing, if for example a product goes away because a business shuts down and we are forced to let go of that team, we're committed to keeping it honest, keeping it real. And we've I think it's worked well for us so far, and I'm sure it will going forward as well.
Right. I take it 2021, your motto of 2020 will be renewed forward to be the same, because it shouldn't be changing. As I said,
No,
the
absolutely.
calendar has just changed. Right.
Well, I think everyone's declaring 2020 to be a zero year, right?
The black swan event. But
indeed.
let's get into specific businesses you are in. And cruise is something which is personally very dear to my heart. I have mentioned to you about my own involvement with Princess and PN.
Yeah.
But the sight of Diamond Princess on the 4th of February in Oklahoma, quarantined for 30 days, I think are pretty vivid in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
And then the last time I looked up, as of May 2020, there were almost about 40 cruise liners which were quarantined somewhere or the other. That's another matter. As of now, there is a no sail order. But going forward, whether be river cruising, whether be large 5,000 cruise, what do you see the future of the cruising industry? Because in many ways, the American holiday business revolved around the cruising.
Yeah.
America gave cruising to the world, literally.
Absolutely.
And not only did it give cruising to the world, it actually opened up many ports and places where you could sail to and open up, Devon being one of them, and so on and so forth. But coming back to cruises, how do you see the global cruising market in 2021, 2022, and of course, India moving forward? And of course, just to add here, with of course Jalesh and some Indian cruises coming in, where do you see them fitting in? Do you see river cruises? I mean, I got plenty of questions on cruise business. Do you see
I'm sure.
river cruises on the Hooghly getting forward, so on? So let's just have a chat with you on that.
Sure. So, well, you're more of the expert on cruising than I am, but I think I agree with you. I think what happened with Princess was just tragic. And it's any cruise liner's worst nightmare. For anyone who's either worked in the cruising business or been on a cruise, they know that even pre-COVID, I think cruise liners were amongst the first institutions in the world to have automated hand sanitizers everywhere, all touch points, this, that, and the other, because a cruise is actually a really sterile environment, typically. But I think the silver lining for the cruising industry is one that a large part of their customers are repeat business or repeat customers, right? So a lot of the regular mariners understand that, and understand that what happened with an outbreak like COVID is not something that happens in normal course. So I do think that once there is a vaccine out there and regulatory restrictions are relaxed, I do think that the cruising business, there will be pent up demand, in fact, of at least a lot of the regular mariners. Having said which, though, I also think that, in my opinion, there may be a shift in the type of experience that people tend to gravitate towards when it comes to cruising. So like the example you gave with the large Vegas style cruise ships, right, with the giant buffets, the mega buffets and the huge dining halls, etc. I think people may be, at least younger mariners, may be more wary of those kind of experiences versus more intimate dining plans on the larger cruise liners, choosing the restaurants over the dining halls, but also choosing a lot more boutique experiences, choosing river cruises, choosing sailing yachts. So, for example, Windstar, which we represent, is a sailing yacht business, right? So which is 200, 400 people at most. I think people might there may be a greater demand for that going forward. And when it comes to river cruises, of course, in India, I think for anyone who's been in the cruising business, again, I'm not the expert, particularly on domestic, but it's been a long time coming, and there's definitely a huge opportunity which some groups like the Oberoi have dabbled with in the past as well and continue to. And yeah, I think India has tremendous potential for that. But what Europe has done very successfully is, they've mastered the art of, providing that experience and marrying it so beautifully with the ports and the infrastructure, and it's seamless. I think in India, it takes currently a lot more to provide that same level of consistency and experience, and perhaps that's slowing us down a bit. And of course, river tourism in terms of keeping the rivers clean, keeping the sites clean, etc. Also, the entire journey, the landscape, etc., is also a challenge, which is it's better served today than it was some time back, but I think still has some way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah. One of the most interesting cruise brands I have found is a British cruise known as Swan Hellenic, which is very small, 350 guest lecturer, very history oriented. And they would have guest lecturers lecturing. And I think that's the kind of model may fit very well into Indian heritage system.
Yeah.
If you're able to cruise. But let's move from cruise to another favorite of mine, and that's the car rental activity. And car rental, not necessarily in India, but overseas. Now,
Sure.
Within India, of course, domestic tourism, people talking about drive from home, smaller, shorter stays, etc. Now, do you see a demand being created for self-drive cars globally for Indians? A. B. What do Indian companies such as yourself or online platforms or API distributors need to do to be able to reach to the end customer in the ability to be able to search, book, and get that experience of booking a self-drive vacation? It could be an inclusive vacation, or it could be
Sure.
just, how do you react to this? I think there's a huge opportunity out there waiting to be.
Absolutely, there is a huge opportunity. So to your first question on the self-drive opportunity itself for Indians traveling abroad, we've seen it grow a lot over the last few years. So we represent 3 brands that are a part of the enterprise group. And across the 3 brands, we've seen it grow a fair amount over the past few years. So I think Indians definitely do increasingly like to, or are a lot more comfortable and confident with picking up a car and driving in a foreign country. And although traditionally it used to be primarily Europe and North America, we've seen that change a lot as well over the past few years. And that's an encouraging sign, because I think people it's about crossing a certain threshold, I think, in terms of the marketplace, which brings me to your second part of your question in terms of what can companies like us or the B2C organizations do to get more people or make it easier to book and buy
or create the demand.
Yeah, well, I think I think education is a large part of it. There are so many myths about self-drive abroad. We get queries coming in, people asking us that it's very simple questions in terms of fines, in terms of comfort, navigation, safety, this, that, and the other. And so I think education and myth busting is really important and is a gap. It's something we constantly try and address through whatever platforms we use for our brands. And I think that's one. Again, given that this is a nascent sector in India, I think beyond that, it's also, fortunately or unfortunately, and of course digital marketing does make it easier, it is a fragmented customer base. Outside of your corporates, you can't just it's not a mass market product yet. And because it is for reasonably well-heeled travelers, or people who have that comfort level with foreign countries, or being in a place where maybe English is not the primary language and things like that, and picking up a car and just being independent. In a post-COVID world, I actually think that there is even more potential for self-drive. It's intimate, it's private, and if you're picking the right company, depends on. I mean, there are so many options out there. Every car rental brand out there is being so careful about sanitization protocols and how they sterilize their vehicles and this, that, and the other. So if anything, you are going to get a super clean product at your pickup location. So I think there is even more potential than there would have been, let's say, in 2018 for self-drive car rental.
Right.
So whenever things open up, of course.
Yeah. So let's get this adventure streak out of you and paint me
Okay.
Travel 2025. What would it look like? And
Okay.
and throw in, garnish in emerging technologies, throw in machine learning, throw in whichever way you like to visualize. Stick 2025. You and I are having a coffee with each other. Hopefully, I'm still around.
Well, it's not that far away, 2025. 5 years kind of will creep up on us before we realize what's going on. But well, I think if I were to think about Stick 2025, we would have, so we celebrated 47 years of our organization last month. So 2025, we would have crossed our golden jubilee. So we would, to Karthik's point, be officially an old hand or one of the long-standing brands in the industry. So if you ask me, my mission at that point, or even before that, from now to 25 and beyond, would be to just keep it young. When you're a 50-year-old organization, you need to keep it young. And you need to stay focused, stay bright, stay ahead of the curve in whatever way you can. It's about, and we hope to achieve that by adapting to the first, 2020 will, of course, the first few quarters will be about recovery. So once we're post that recovery, it's about doing whatever we need to do, pursuing every growth and expansion opportunity that allows us to achieve that vision. For me personally, my mission is to perpetuate this legacy that I have inherited. And by 2025, hopefully, I'm redundant and in the organization, and hopefully I've managed to successfully perpetuate this privilege and responsibility that I have as a second generation leader of a business, and mega giant shoes to fill with Mr. Goyle, our chairman, and Mrs. Goyle, who's been an equal mentor for me and our organization as well. So there's a lot to do.
Yeah, we do talk about Mr. Goyle, but we, sorry to say, sometimes miss on Mrs. Goyle. I saw her very focused in one meeting I attended with her. She's quite there.
Yeah, absolutely. She's she's set the frameworks of this organization that we sit on today, and the nuts and bolts are all her.
Right. So do you see Stick in that 5-year canvas outside India, global, APAC? And I don't mean one office working from home in London.
Well, I hope none of us are working from home anywhere in the world after a certain point. I think so. But no, I think will it be global or regional or something beyond what we're doing today as a business? It could be any and all. We want to expand and grow, and we want to do it. We want to be relevant to the times. So if global expansion is what is on the cards to achieve that, yes, absolutely, we'll be all over the planet. But if our greatest growth and glory lies in the domestic market, then maybe that's what we'll do. Like I said, I feel honestly, Ashish, roadmaps are a great way to give us a sense of security about a future we have no idea, about. So I do believe in roadmaps, but hey, we did have a lot of plans for 2022. Sorry, but so yeah, we'll definitely be aggressively pursuing our vision and our mission, and I'm hopefully fairly confident achieving at least some of it, if not all. Um, and hopefully staying young and vibrant at 50 plus.
Yeah, young, vibrant, and agile, because then ability to
Indeed.
adapt to the times which go on.
Adapt, problem solve,
Right, right.
reboot.
So before I say thank you and ask Karthik if he has something to say, give me one thing you would wish to happen in the industry. We sit back and we say, oh, I wish this industry was this and I wish it was that. What is that one thing you wish?
Uh, and I say this with a very positive,
Yeah, yeah.
excuse the word, frame of mind, but I feel greater collaboration.
Yeah.
Not to say that we don't collaborate enough. We have tons of associations. I'm sure you're active on several of them. I know you chair one of the committees as well. Mr. Goyle is, as you know,
All over the
a
place.
spokesman all over the place, indeed, in most of them. But I feel that collaboration, one at a macro level between regulators and industry, I think we need to work together more and shed off this whole approach of lobbying, and it needs to be, we need to have more fewer barriers, so to speak, and perhaps that's idealistic, but I do see it as a need, and I think it would definitely help. But also I feel at an industry or peer level, while we have tons of associations that are serving and doing a fantastic job, by the way, serving their specific segments, in terms of tours or travel or aviation or, hospitality and so on. I feel somehow that, are we supporting each other enough, across what we do, without agendas, without a quid pro quo um, approach, and maybe we are, and maybe it's ignorance, but that's my perception. um, and the third aspect perhaps would be structured mentoring. I think business schools do it very effectively, shadowing leaders, having talks, and again, it's more about giving back, not so much about what I'm getting in return. And I think we have, like you said, a lot of entrepreneurs, very, very experienced and successful leaders in our industry. And for some reason, there isn't a neutral platform that just allows them to give back to people who would never have access to them otherwise, right? In a personal, intimate way. So that's my.
I can see a little smile on Karthik's face when you said neutrally, because that's something which I keep harping to him. They're doing things with no interest sometimes and collaborating. But coming back, lastly, of course, collaboration and not competing is the way forward for sure. And
Absolutely.
lastly, of course, if you had more time, we could talk at length. The amount of policy changes which need to happen within the framework of the regulator, which could set aside this industry in a faster growth mode, is amazing. I mean, did you ever think that you could fly from here to Bombay in 30 minutes less, right? But it did happen as part of the COVID time policy with the aviation framework. And the 30 minutes, you can translate yourself, what does it mean in the overall perspective?
Yeah, yeah.
So there are lot like that waiting. So thank you, Isha, for a nice freewheeling chat today. And over to you, Karthik. You have something to say?
Yeah, it
To
was
sign off?
pleasure listening to you, Isha. And although you are a second generation leader within the family business, but I think in many ways you are also a youth icon for many of the young entrepreneurs who are listening to us today. So, do you have any message for some of those young entrepreneurs who are just at the brink of starting up, and probably got a bit disheartened with whatever is happening right now. What's your message for entrepreneurs at this stage? Should they just wait and watch and see the tide go through, or is it a good time to nurture up some new business models in the industry, imagining a post-COVID environment? What would be your 2 cents of advice to them?
Well, honestly, just keep the wheels turning. So if you don't have a job and you can't find a job, do skill development. Figure out, what you can do to upgrade your skills. And it could be within the same environment that you're in. It could be, a lateral shift. It could be something completely new. So skill development. So, and if, a lot of people have also had to change their job profiles because of COVID, right? And embrace it, embrace the change. There is nothing we can do about the external environment. The only thing we can control is ourselves and our reactions. So keep the wheels turning. As long as you're moving, you're going somewhere. So keep going is what I'd say.
Right.
Don't stop.
Great. So on this note, we are at the end of today's session. Thank you so much, Isha, for sharing your
Thank
thoughts
you. Thank you very much.
and ideas with us.
I quite enjoyed it.
Thank you, Isha.
Thank you,
And
Ashish.
Ashish,
Thank you,
thanks
Karthik.
everyone for joining in, and we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
Saturday. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.